hello everybody. Welcome to the Faith Focus Weekly Discipleship Podcast. My name is Kevin Rogness, and I'm the Discipleship Director. We're already struggling. I'm the Discipleship Director here at Faith Covenant Church, and I'm excited to welcome you to the podcast today. So if you're watching online on YouTube or listening on any of the major podcasting platforms, I'd just like to remind you to make sure you hit subscribe so that you never miss one of our weekly episodes. So today, I'm really excited because we recently hired a new staff member, Davey Neubauer. I'm really excited to have him here because, well, we needed to fill that role, and so I'm really excited for what he can do for our students. But also, Davey and I have known each other since 2015.
Yeah, 2015.
Because we started seminary together at Bethel Seminary, and we always joked that we would end up working at church together and take over the world or something like that. But
never in my wildest dreams would I think it would actually happen.
Yep. And so it's kind of funny because we're working together now, and there's two other classmates of ours that were in our cohort that are working together at another church at Mill City together. So we always kind of all joke that, it'd be fun together to work together someday. And then now it's kind of actually happening. So
pretty amazing.
Yeah. So this is just kind of our chance to get to know Davey a little bit better because a lot of you don't know him the way that I do. And so this is just kind of an opportunity for us to share a little bit of who Davey is with you all. So, Davey, I'm going to just jump right into the questions. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? Because you're not from Minnesota.
Not from Minnesota.
Not originally.
I'm from Southern California. I grew up in an area called the Inland Empire, which is 70 miles. Would that be east of LA? So in between LA and Palm Springs, the desert.
Okay. So very different weather.
Yes.
How was your first winter?
It was fine. Probably. Well, I tell people I traded the awful, horrible summers for awful long winters. So, I mean, winter for me has been fine. It's just that it lasts so long.
Yeah.
We get the second winters, and then we get the tease of the spring, and then more snow comes, and we get depressed and go back.
It's a seesaw for a long time. Yeah. Going into it and coming out of it, it's just, it can be terrible.
But where I grew up, it's 100 degrees for about 3 months, and it's just it feels like you're getting punched in the face by the sun, and it's just not fun.
You've definitely gone from the extremes of weather. Maybe you should just move somewhere that's just chill all the time.
Well, the thing about Minnesota that I really enjoy that reminds me of home. So I grew up in the foothills, it's called. So it's on the bottom of a big mountain range where there's a ski resort, and there's tons of just beautiful nature and trails and places to go hike into to camp. And so the Northwoods kind of reminds me of back home, and I've really enjoyed that part of Minnesota.
Yeah, it's a very, very beautiful part. So you grew up there, and your parents still live there, correct?
Yep.
And do you have siblings?
2 brothers.
Okay. And are they still in that area too?
Both live there. My brother actually married someone that he met on a mission trip from Brazil, and they live in San Diego, one of the most expensive places to live.
So I've heard.
Probably, there's worse places, but it's pretty expensive to live there.
Yeah.
It's 65, 70 degrees every day.
Mm-hmm. And so you are also married, and your wife's name is?
Laura.
And how did you two meet?
We met on the website Christian Mingle in college, towards the end of college in 2004. She always likes to tell the story that I was really proud of, that I just went on a mission trip to Brazil, and the whole mission trip was about sharing your testimony. And there was this guy in the village, his nickname was Zacchaeus because he was really short.
Yes.
And so I sent her this picture, not even thinking about it, about we both had similar, we both believe in God and Jesus and been in church our whole life kind of deal. And so I sent her this picture about me being in this mission field, this mission trip, that shared my faith and preached for the first time, with no warning, because the pastor's like, I want you to preach. And I'm like, what? But so I'm in this picture of Zacchaeus, and she thought I was 6'10" because of that.
Not quite.
No. Does that look like a monster?
What do they call that? Catfishing, where you misrepresent yourself or something?
Yeah, she said that was the worst picture I could have sent her. So.
You're sending a picture of you and me together.
Yeah. So the story is we met, kind of talked, convinced her parents that I wasn't an axe murderer.
It's usually a good start.
And then we first time we met in person was in LAX, and then we long distance dated for 2 years.
Because she's from Minnesota, correct? Yep. Okay.
She's from Litchfield, Western Minnesota. Long distance dated for 2 years, got engaged, and then was married in 2007. So we've been married for 15 years.
Okay. 15 years, and you have 2 children.
Yep, 2 girls.
Okay, what are their names?
Kaylee. Kaylee is a 6th grader.
Okay.
She's excited about being a teenager, even though she's not a teenager.
Almost there.
Yeah.
She's 12?
She's 11.
Okay.
So she could be an old 5th grader, but she's a young 6th grader. She's basically the youngest in her class.
Sure.
And then Addie is our, so Kaylee is more our chill, very introverted, very smart, but very calm, timid child. And then whatever the exact opposite of that is on the spectrum is Addie. Our 2nd grader. She lives on her emotions. She's super happy and fun to be around, or she's really mad. And there's no middle ground. And it could switch at any moment.
Great. And only in 2nd grade.
Yeah.
Got lots to look forward to there.
Yeah.
And how did you meet your children? No. Okay, so 2 kids, 2 siblings, your wife Laura, Kaylee and Addie. Got it. Okay. So then what's your kind of career path and your schooling path? Obviously, we went to seminary together, so there's that. But where'd you go to college and all that?
So I went to a state school, Cal State San Bernardino. It's like half hour from where I grew up. My degree's in creative writing, which I use a whole bunch.
Yeah, I'm sure.
The plan was, this is going to kind of bleed into the next question.
Sure.
Is that okay, or do you want me to?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay. So the plan was for me to be a middle school English teacher. I didn't find out till college that I really liked English, particularly like literature and poetry, short stories, but I really enjoyed all kinds of different literature too. So the plan was to be a middle school English teacher, and then I can't remember the exact timing if we were newly married. I think we were newly married within a year. I was in Minnesota on vacation. Laura's mom at the time, she had been an accountant for a major construction company, and she'd been doing telecommuting, working from home. And so during the day we would just hang out and not do much. I was doing some quiet time, and it wasn't a verbal voice that I heard from God, but it's just like really strong messaging that God wanted me to go and be a youth pastor and go into youth ministry specifically. And it was like, what? Why? And then I remember that night talking to my wife Laura and in bed, like the half hour before we went to sleep. And I remember being super, super nervous about the whole idea of being in front of teenagers and telling them about Jesus, and how that is made me a lot more nervous than just being a teacher in front of teenagers. And so I did that. I went to my pastor at the time. He had been a youth pastor for 20 years and just been promoted as your lead pastor. Just started learning about ministry. Did an internship. At that time, I was working full time for Reebok as an assistant store manager.
And you loved retail, right?
Certain aspects, but the schedule of retail, and when you have to close and you're at the store till 11:30, and then you're not really going to sleep till 12:31 sometimes, right. And then if you have to be at the store by 7 or 8, that's just, it's a young man's game. Yeah, you can do it in your 20s and maybe 30s, but after that, it's just hard on your body. So yeah. There were certain aspects of that. I actually ran a golf store, because there's a lot of golfing in California where my store was. That was the number 1 store in the company, so that was kind of cool. Nice little thing to be a part of. But bivocationally, but I got an opportunity to be a young adult and college pastor, just because we had like 3 college students that were coming to our church, and my dad was actually teaching a Bible study, and he didn't have a spot for me, so he's like, try this. He didn't really have a lot of confidence in me that I would do anything with it, but it ended up being really successful, and It wasn't overnight, but it ended up being one of the bigger ministries in the church. So that's where I kind of cut my teeth, so to speak, and learned a lot from just failing and doing things wrong.
Learn a lot from failure.
Yeah. So that's a big part of my story. Just, I think, two things: learning a lot from failure, and then just being motivated by proving people wrong. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of my story is in those two things.
So, and then you did your undergrad out in California, did some ministry stuff, and then you started seminary in 2015. Mm-hmm. And what have you done in the last few years in terms of work and stuff like that?
Well, beginning seminary, I was working at Kohl's.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
About probably 6 months. That was okay. I think I quit right before Old Testament, which was
That's good. Old Testament was a hard class.
It wasn't hard as far as the content, just the workload.
It was just, it was a lot of reading.
Insane. What else have I done? I did my internship. I wanted to get a little bit more preaching practice, so I did my internship in a really, really, really small church on the east side of St. Paul. Mm-hmm. It's called Pain Free. I was able to do, I think, 3 sermons. I worked at Bethel University as the grad assistant in the campus. It's called something else now, but it was campus ministries office at the time. And in that position, I was able to do a little bit discipleship and training for the student leaders of mission trips, short-term mission trips. So that was really fun. Just like training young leaders basically was my job, and some other things. But that was fun. And then most recently, that whole time, I wouldn't say the whole time, but for 2 solid years, it was a lot of struggles of trying to find youth pastor jobs, and a lot of like, you're a second choice, but you didn't make.
Yep.
And how I find it now of really just genuinely, there's no way for me to really articulate this well, but just genuinely enjoying my time here and knowing that it's a really good fit for me long term. God just saved me from some jobs. And there was some time, especially in the early part, where I was just trying to will myself to jobs because I knew that God had youth ministry as my vocation. Mm-hmm. But then I was also trying to fight some hurt about people just telling me that I didn't have the skills that they're looking for, maybe not enough experience, because at that point I was in my mid-30s, maybe not charismatic enough, maybe not polished enough, all the negative things, and trying to force that, or almost like in interviews a lot. I had an interview at a local church that was medium size, and I had some feedback like, you're the most like knowledgeable and you quoted the most books that I've ever known but I need someone more experienced, like trying to like prove myself in interviews and being let down when that wasn't enough. And so it's been a long journey of doing that, but what I did for the last couple years, which was really, really hard, but I think really necessary, and I think part of the reason why I'm here right now is Youth for Christ. So it wasn't...
That's a national organization, right?
Parachurch ministry. Their mission is wanting to reach kids that churches aren't reaching, kind of going... I think of it as like, if you go in a dark room and there's some light in the room, we want to reach the kids that are in the corners. In the dark spaces, under the table. I'm thinking of the story where Jesus talks about the lamp. That's... It can't... If it's covered, if there's a light that's covered, who's going to see it? Deal. So parachurch ministry that tries to work alongside churches and go, the mission field is school campus. So develop relationships with schools, administrators, teachers, principals, and then start a club. So what was unique about that situation is it was a startup. So I was in charge of raising money for the ministry, and my salary, I was in charge of finding volunteers for the ministry, finding my board, like everything. So it was, and then COVID on top of it. So,
and you were doing that up in White Bear Lake, right?
White Bear Lake, yep.
So, still in the Twin Cities area. So you've been in the Twin Cities area now for quite a few years.
Yeah, so 7 years.
Yeah. And actually used to live pretty close to here too for a while, right?
Yep. So we lived for those that know, in the River Hills area. So my wife works at a church in Egan off of Cliff and 3. So it's kind of like on the edge of Rosemont, Egan, and River Grove. But yeah, we used to live like 3 or 4 miles from here. So in a way, my wife and I were talking, it's kind of like we're coming back home in a way.
Yeah.
Even though it's not our home.
Because you spent so much time in this area.
Yeah. So we lived here for 4 years, almost 5. We've been living in Hugo, White Bear area for 2, and then we're coming back down. So kind of a full circle kind of deal for us. So
awesome. So now, in your role, you're our student or our youth director, so working with students ages like grades 6 to 12, is it?
Yeah.
Yep. So what is kind of your hope for these students here at Faith as you step into this role?
Yeah. So knowing a little bit of context is one of my strength finders. So history is real important. I want to know where we've been so we can move forward in a positive direction. So just knowing where we've been and some of the struggles through COVID. I think the number one thing is when you come, especially on Wednesdays, there's going to be a lot of fun and goofiness and weird things that are going to happen. I'm big on all those things, doing silly games as many times as possible. If you can do weird, silly things, like some of my favorite games involve rubber chickens. So,
ooh, I'm down. I might have to come join you for that.
So just knowing that it's a place where you can belong, a place to have fun, to be yourself. And then number 2, real important for me, not so much like street evangelism isn't my thing, but God's really pointing me towards apologetics. So something big that I would like for parents to know and students, if they even watch this podcast, I don't know, would be asking hard questions, and asking questions is important. We'll get to one of the books I brought for recommendation later, but that's kind of something that I want to encourage. I want kids to ask questions and not be afraid, and also not be because we're in a church building, it don't have to feel like safe questions. Like, I think it's okay for you to ask a question, and then for me to say, you know what, this is what I think about it, but I'm not sure. Let me do some research and digging, and maybe ask some advice to some mentors of mine, and I'll get back to you, kind of deal. And then the third thing is, it's real important for me to try to connect, and I haven't done any of this yet, but connect with students outside of programming. I want to hang out with students maybe at their games, or maybe invite them out for ice cream after school. Those things are going to be easier once we're down in the area.
Right.
But that's real important to me, to connect with students outside of programming time. Yeah. Not just about, hey, come on Sundays and Wednesdays and bring your friends. It's about me connecting and building relationships with students.
And of course, a big part of youth ministry too is also connecting with the parents and helping parents to disciple their kids and give them helpful tools to help disciple their kids, outside of time at church. So what is your hope for parents at Faith Covenant?
So I think first thing is we're in this together. I'll just say that some youth pastors, and especially younger youth pastors, can get frustrated with parents, like they're competing against each other, and it's not a competition.
No.
So really, I think part of the reason I'm here, and that what felt a good match, is I was reading this book about I can't remember the title of it, but the thesis of the book is how we're raising students in the church, and they're liking some of the morality. I think it's called Almost Christian, and I don't know the author, I'm sorry. They liken the morality of what we teach in the church, but then after high school, they're not involved in church in any sort of way. Yeah. And just doing a better job discipling students. But like Sarah said at her podcast, I'm only going to be with students for a couple hours a week. So it's all about working together. One of the things that I'd like to do as I get more acclimated is inviting parents out for lunch after church, maybe a small group, like maybe 2 to 3 couples, and just go around the table as we're in communion and eating, and saying, what are some things that you're struggling with your kids at home? What are the things that they're asking, are they struggling with identity? Are they struggling with gender issues? What is it they're struggling with, so we can work together? I think there's really powerful messaging that I'd like to have up front about just like, we're working together. I want to equip you to do better. Not saying that I have all the answers, but if we do this together, I think it can be a successful time in ministry at Faith. So
absolutely. And I'm excited for our students and for the parents of students too, that they have you to look to now. Because I mean, obviously, having known you now for 7 years, I know how much you have to offer our students. So I'm really excited to have him here for that. So then now let's get into just some questions to kind of get to know some of your interests and hobbies. So tell us your favorite movie or movies.
It's a hard question, and it always evolves. But
right,
Dark Knight, it's got to be in it.
Oh yeah,
Heath Ledger, it has to be there. So that was the first one I thought of. Any Star Wars movie, but I think Rogue One's my favorite.
That's a good one.
Trying to think what else. I like Marvel movies, but I didn't like it at first, but I think my favorite Marvel movies are Guardians of the Galaxy. Just the comedy that's in that is.
I've not heard too many people say that those are their favorite Marvel movies.
Yeah, I like those.
So of course it would be you.
Yeah. I do like the first Iron Man quite a bit.
Yeah.
The first Iron Man is epic.
Okay, so then what are some of your hobbies?
Hobbies. So one of my favorite hobbies that I've taken up since I moved to Minnesota is kayaking. I really love kayaking in the summertime.
A lot of lakes to do that here.
A lot of lakes. There's not a shortage of lakes. One of my also favorite things that I like to do every year is going to Gooseberry Falls and hiking.
Oh, okay.
But there's actually a lot of trails up there.
Yeah.
It's pretty. It's pretty, and it's not super far.
Yeah.
So other hobbies, don't do it a ton anymore, but writing poetry, coaching basketball. Something that I'd like to do is as kind of like a ministry tool, but just to be out in the community and coaching basketball. In White Bear Lake, I coached 6th and 7th grade boys team, and that was really good. Yeah, those are the main.
Yeah.
Obsessed to a fault in a not a healthy way sometimes about the LA Clippers. So
I remember your hat that you wear quite a bit for the LA Clippers.
Yeah. So I grew up in Southern California. My dad's a big Dodger fan and Laker fan, so I had to pick the opposite teams.
Of course.
That's just the way it works.
So have you gotten invested in any Minnesota teams like the Vikings or the Twins or anything, or not really?
I can't do it. I don't hate them or anything, but no.
That's probably a good thing not to hate them. So
I'll go to, if someone invites me to a Wild game or a Twins game, or I would go to it. But
I've still never been to a Wild game. Yeah, I should work on that. What is a book you recommend, or a couple of books you recommend?
Yeah, so a couple I brought them.
Wow, it's like you're prepared for this.
Yeah, you know about this one, but
I do.
This is a great book.
Yes.
I would say the only critique I have, honestly, is I wish it would go more in depth. It's a very surface level book, but it's Stay Curious, and it's just that the idea of asking questions is okay. By Steph O'Brien. She's one I don't think I'm putting words in her mouth. One of our favorite professors or people. She pastors Mill City,
and so I did my internship with her at Mill City, and she was also taught the preaching classes at Bethel Seminary. So we got the chance to learn under her, and
So that book, and then the other book in a similar vein is Greg Boyd's book, Letters from a Skeptic.
I have yet to read that one,
and it's really, really good. And if I would say, so there's these chapters in here. Each one is just a letter, and the chapters are on average 6 to 8 pages long, and so it's going back and forth between his dad's really hard questions that a lot of people ask, like, why does God allow evil in the world? Why is there evil people? Why do people have to die suddenly? Like, all these really great questions. If you have someone in your life that is asking those questions or has that kind of skeptic thing, I think it would be a really good resource for anyone that's trying to witness to their friends or their neighbors.
It's on my shelf there of things I need to read somewhere. I don't know. I think I have a copy somewhere, and I know I need to read it. Yeah.
I think those are two books that just appeal to me as far as apologetics, and like I said, I don't really believe in personally student evangelism, but I think there's really good ways that you can use apologetics to kind of help not win an argument. That's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
But just help people through some questions that they struggle with.
Sure, definitely. And then, what is a way that God has surprised you at some point in your life? I mean, obviously me, but...
It's
probably a lot.
So I'm thinking, I think my first inclination to answer that question is just coming to faith, like Faith Covenant, because, so a little bit more backstory that we didn't get into. I grew up Southern Baptist, so very much like, women pastors allowed. We even had like a huge argument in the church for a couple years over, is it okay to have women deacons? And women deacons are
in the Bible.
Like it's
Named.
It's not. Yeah. It's not even really a debate. So, going from that and then being in a church that has infant baptism and believer's baptism. I mean, to some people that wouldn't be a big change, but for me and going through seminary, that's a pretty huge change. And just how my theology has moved away from conservatism and moved into, I wouldn't call it liberalism, I'd call it more moderatism, I guess. And shoot, I've talked about this, but what does liberalism even mean in the church anymore?
Or conservatism, for that matter. Yeah.
So, I think that's the biggest surprise. Just believing that the Bible teaches pretty clearly about women have the ability to be preachers and pastors and have authority in the church. That would probably be the biggest one for me, I think. I mean, there's all kinds of different surprises. But.
Yeah. What about a favorite snack?
Oh, I like all kinds of candy, but I really like Monster trail mix. You know what that is?
I know trail mix is, but Monster trail mix.
You get it at
like a Monster energy drink in a bag of like pretzels and raisins.
So you get it at Target, and I think it's one of their Target brands, but it's raisins, peanuts, chocolate M&Ms, and then also peanut butter chips.
Okay.
That's one of my favorites.
I'm just picturing like a bowl of cereal, but instead it's just trail mix and then just pour in a drink of Monster energy drink.
No. So that's a
terrible
image.
Like
trail mix with peanut butter in it.
Okay.
Anything like Reese's or Snickers is up there too. Almond Joys.
So you like the peanut butter?
Yeah. I do.
I've recently run out, but I've had in my desk, I often have a bag of like the fun bite-sized Snickers. Okay. So if you ask at some point, I may have them.
Speaking of fun bite-sized, for some reason I don't like the king size, but the fun bite-sized Kit Kats. I just eat way too many of them every Halloween. So, I don't know if we mentioned that either, but my wife's in children's ministry and done a lot of Halloween stuff in the last 10 years. We always have way too much candy at our house.
Yeah. Well, that's what having children is all about. It's just access to sugar.
It's true. Have I ever stolen some of my kids' candy at night? Yes.
Well, is it stealing or is it taxation?
I don't know.
I've heard that that's the best way to teach kids about taxes is they go get their candy and then you say, okay, I take 10% because I provide these services for you. And I think that's a great way to teach kids about taxes. Well, anyway, last question. Describe your favorite dream vacation that you would like to go on someday.
So when I was first thinking about this, I was thinking about a vacation that we were planning this last year, but realized it was way out of our budget. And that would be going on an East Coast historical trip with our girls.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
There's so many different history things. But if I had a dream vacation, it would just be with my wife. And it might be a cruise, but it might not. But it would be going to Italy, Rome, and Greece.
Ooh, yeah.
You get all the things that really like you get really good food. You get historical stuff. Mm-hmm. And I don't know about the terrain, but anywhere I go in Europe, I want to go more in the mountainous village areas. So.
Yeah, you get a lot of that in Italy and in Greece. So yeah, I saw once online a cruise that started in London and ended in London, but just went around the world. Like literally goes around the entire world. It's like a 9-month cruise. So I'm like, that kind of sounds amazing. I mean, it's like $80,000 or $90,000, so that's a little out of budget.
Maybe this is going off the rails a little bit, but what's your favorite? You've traveled a lot. What's your favorite vacation, or what would be your dream vacation?
My dream vacation would be to go to New Zealand. I've just desperately wanted to go to New Zealand ever since Lord of the Rings came out, several decades ago, and just kind of watching all the scenery and watching all the special features of the movies and like seeing the places they scouted out for locations. Okay. I would just love to go there. But vacations I've been on, Iceland was really amazing. Just a really different scenery than anything I had ever seen. Costa Rica with my family was a lot of fun. Those are probably my top favorite ones that I've been on. So.
And what about food? What's the best food?
I'm not a huge foodie. I have been to Italy, and I really enjoyed the food in Italy. I just got back from Canada, and so I really enjoyed having some crepes, even though I got like the same. I'm like the most boring vanilla eater ever, so I'm like the last person to eat it. Actually, Brazil had amazing food.
Okay.
I really loved Brazil food.
My favorite food was definitely Turkey.
Yeah.
Had really good open market bakeries there.
Ooh,
and also... this was my first time ever having lamb, but just they have really good lamb there.
Yeah. Didn't you go to Ghana too once?
Twice.
Okay.
Yeah, Ghana, Africa.
Was the food good?
No.
Never mind.
To be fair, we did stay a little bit in a somewhat of a big city, similar to, I would say, it's not a good comparison, but similar to like a Burnsville kind of town.
Okay.
It's not a good comparison, but anyways, we did most of our work on that in the villages, like 45 minutes to an hour outside, like in the deep jungle kind of area. So no, there's like,
not
you want some roasted corn that I'm selling on the street, and you're like, yes,
sure.
And
why
it tastes
not?
like burnt popcorn.
Can't win them all. So,
no.
Was there anything else that you would like to share with our audience about yourself or your grand dreams of global domination, starting with youth ministry?
I just feel so glad to be here. I think one of the things, as I get to know more people, one of the things that I really want to champion for youth ministry is I need leaders. I'm technically like just a speck on the introverted side, but I don't like doing ministry alone. I don't like being alone. I don't like having extended periods of alone time. So I just need people to be with me. To the model of youth ministry that I want to have when we are growing a little bit more is small group leaders that are youth pastors to their 6 to 8 kids. So to do that, we need more leaders, especially women. So as I get to know more people, I'm going to start asking people and having conversations with people. And sometimes youth ministry can seem daunting and scary. You don't have to be a certain age. You can be older and have an impact. If you want to make, I would just say this to people watching, if you want to make impact to the next generation, there's literally, in my opinion, there's no better way to do it than in youth ministry. You don't have to be energetic. You don't have to feel like you relate to teenagers. You just have to be a caring adult that loves kids and wants them to know Jesus. Like literally, that's it.
You don't have to know all the lingo from online, from TikTok and all that.
That's what I get paid for. I try to keep up with all that stuff.
I can't keep up with it. I'm like, I've become old. Yeah,
me too. But that is part of my. I really do believe that's part of my job, is to try to keep up with all that stuff. But as a youth leader, that's not your job. Your job is to love kids.
Yeah.
Be in their lives, invite them out to ice cream, hang out with them, be someone that they can confide in. as they get to know you, they're not gonna ask questions like that, but just being in their lives and being present.
Yeah.
So I've seen good youth leaders that are in their early 20s. I've seen good youth leaders. One of the best youth leaders I've ever known. The church where my wife works, she's in her 60s.
Wow.
Amazing youth leader. One of the best youth leaders I've ever known.
Yeah. God will use anyone.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited that Davey is here. We're very excited to have you on staff. I can already see the difference that you're making, even just in our meetings.
We had a great meeting where people were just laughing a lot, and I took a little bit of the credit because...
Yes, it was all you. Actually, no, it was just Shar being really tired. She was trying to yawn and talk at the same time, and that just derailed everything.
Well, we didn't really touch on it, but I'll just say it real quick. One of the things I think is super, super important that I hope to bring to this church is life is really hard. Ministry, for those that know, I've met a couple people in our church that have been in ministry, but they're kind of out of it right now and doing other things. Ministry is so hard. We got to really be watchful of not being serious all the time. We're doing a really serious work, really something that's the most important thing in the world, leading people to Jesus, but got to have some fun, or we're going to, in my opinion, that's how, especially youth pastors burn out, other pastors burn out. It's such a heavy workload, and I'm sure you've seen studies, it's one of the most stressful. I'm just thinking about when I was first ordained in the Southern Baptist Convention. The pastor gave me a charge, and he started reciting like some of the statistics. That's one of the most stressful occupations you can have.
Great, thanks. What a way to start.
Yeah. So,
well, to quote one of your favorite movies, The Dark Knight Rises, why so serious?
Yeah. Maybe we should title the.
Yeah. No, I don't think we want to be quoting the Joker for titles of a podcast episode, but who knows? Maybe not. I don't know. Well, thank you again, Davey, for joining us today, and thank you for joining our church. I'm really excited to see what you bring to our congregation, and thank you all for watching or for listening. And if this has been helpful for you, make sure that you share it with anybody who needs to hear this. And we hope to see you another day. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.
Bye.